I was kidnapped. The kidnapper called my parents who were on vacation abroad to ask for money, but he couldn't get through. The kidnapper and I stared at each other and the situation became awkward for a while. In order to avoid being killed, I offered to call my fiance whom I had never met. So Captain David, who was organizing training for the criminal police team, received a ransom call from the kidnappers. The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and follow. Are you your parents' biological child? Don't worry, big brother. Maybe the call will be connected soon. I took my phone and called my mother again. Hello, the number you dialed is out of service area, please call again later. I felt terrible when I heard the busy tone on the other end of the phone. I just returned to China 3 days ago. My parents said that I had graduated from university and had to learn to be independent, so they let me return to China alone to develop my career. By the way, I came to find my childhood sweetheart to settle my lifelong affairs. Then they gave me the mobile phone number of my childhood sweetheart, whom I had never met, and booked a tour group to the Maldives for vacation. Unexpectedly, I was kidnapped the next day after I landed. The kidnappers asked me to call my family, but I couldn't get through to my parents. At that moment, all I could think of was, if no one comes to redeem me, I'm going to be killed. The more I thought about it, the more scared I became and the more panicked I became. Just as the kidnappers and I were staring at each other and the situation was awkward, a light bulb went off in my head and I remembered the phone calls my parents had made to me. Just like a drowning man grabbing at the last straw, I instantly felt hopeful again. Brother, how about I call my fiance and try? He's in the country, he should be able to answer the call. Why didn't you say so earlier? So I started dialing again. This time there was no announcement that the call was out of service area. I waited nervously for the call to be connected. At this moment, the cell phone of David, the captain of the city's criminal police team, who was training his team members, suddenly rang. The phone beeped twice, and then a charming male voice came. Hello? Who is this? I was happier than the kidnapper. I was finally saved. He quickly turned on the hands-free and handed it to the kidnapper. The kidnapper seemed to be doing this for the first time and was a little nervous. He stammered, You listen to me carefully. Your fiancé is in my hands now. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, you must prepare 500,000 yuan and put it under the second bridge in the north of the city. Otherwise, you will never see your fiancé again. There was silence on the other side at first, and then a burst of laughter came from the background. Is there someone next to you? No, I'm watching TV. How can you prove that people are safe now? The tone of the person on the other end was relatively calm, and he dealt with the kidnappers calmly. The kidnapper looked at me, and I cooperated very well and shouted, Save me. Did you hear me? Don't call the police. Don't play any tricks, I want to see $500,000 this afternoon. Okay, I'll collect the money, but you have to take a picture of her so I can confirm she's safe. The kidnapper hung up the phone after hearing this, and took a photo of me tied to a chair with my phone and sent it to someone else. Then he put my phone in his pocket, and seemed a little worried, so he confirmed with me again. Is your fiancé reliable? Is he really willing to pay 500,000 yuan for you? I actually had no idea, so I could only force out a smile, I think so. But soon, sirens were heard outside the door. Before the kidnapper could react, he was subdued and handcuffed. My attention was focused on the policeman who came forward to untie me. He is really, really handsome. I wish my fiancé looked like this. Inside the police station interrogation room. Tell me, why did you kidnap that girl? Because she's stupid. Because she's stupid? What's the reason? Explain it to me. I really kidnapped her because she was stupid. I was on the bus that day and I saw that girl get on the bus and ask the driver if she could swipe her card. The driver told her yes, so she took out a card and swiped it for a long time, but it didn't work. And what? What does this have to do with you kidnapping her? Then the driver took her card and looked at it, and found that the card she had been swiping for a long time was a credit card. Keep going. I used to work as a credit card salesperson. I recognized that the minimum limit on her card was $1 million. I thought this might be a rich girl who came out to experience life, so I paid for her car fare and then tried to get close to her. She said she had just returned to China and hadn't found a job or a place to live. I was wary and followed her for 2 days. I found out that she really didn't know anyone and had been living in a hotel, so I attacked her. At this moment, I was in the lounge of the police station, eating the food that the police sister brought for me. Eat slowly, and remember to take notes after you finish eating. The policewoman next to me looked at me with a look of distress, but I didn't care at all and asked her, "How did you find my location so quickly?" The policewoman couldn't help laughing when she heard that. That was all thanks to the kidnapper. He used your iPhone to send the photos, and the photos on the iPhone have a positioning function. The only place he could hide was your unfinished building, and he found it right away. The person who reported the case. I was just about to ask about the situation of my childhood sweetheart. After all, he saved my life this time. I was still wondering why I hadn't seen him for so long, when I saw the handsome young man who untied me come out of the interrogation room and waved at me. "Have you finished eating? Come with me to make a statement after you finish eating." I stood up obediently. "Okay." The young man took a pen and paper and thoughtfully poured me a cup of hot water and placed it in front of me. Name: Linda. I just briefly learned about your situation. Do you have any other relatives in the country? No, I only have a fiance. I told the truth. My fiance is also fine. Can I contact him now? I was a little confused. Didn't I call him and he called the police for me, so you came to rescue me? Didn't you see him? The handsome guy opposite had a subtle expression that was hard to understand. What's your fiance's name? I have no idea. I saw the expression of the boy opposite me became more subtle, and I quickly added, because we were married when we were children. I went abroad very early, but I know the name of my fiance's father. It's Robert. Ahem. The guy opposite seemed to be choked by his own saliva, so I quickly handed him the untouched glass of water. He took it, took a sip, and hurried away, telling me that he was going to make a phone call first. 10 minutes later, he finished the call, walked in and looked at me with a complicated expression. "Are you Aunt Kelly's daughter Linda?" "I? So you are my future husband?" I sat in David's passenger seat and was as happy as a little rabbit. Anyone who finds out that their future spouse is a handsome guy who is over 1.8 meters tall would be so happy that they would explode. David, who was driving, didn't leave me, his face full of an indescribable expression. David's house is on the top floor and has a large balcony. I like it very much. As soon as I entered the door, I lay down on the hanging chair on the balcony and swung. "You can stay at my place for now. I prepared the room for you. I'm busy at work, so call me if you need anything." "So you're living with me now?" I watched his face turn visibly red, then spread all the way to the tips of his ears. "What's wrong with you?" "It's not cohabitation, it's living together." "Oh. Anyway, we already had an engagement when we were children, and we will get married sooner or later. In fact, there's nothing wrong with living together." I muttered softly. After all, I was still very satisfied with David, the partner arranged by my parents. Child marriages are something that the older generation does. This concept of marriage is no longer advocated. I put my dangling feet down and looked David seriously in the eyes. "So you hate me?" "No." "You have a girlfriend?" "Not really. I just feel that this is our first meeting and we don't know each other well enough. It would be irresponsible for us to be together so hastily. So if we understand each other, we can be together, right? We need to like each other to be together." "Oh," I responded thoughtfully, thinking about how to make David quickly understand me and fall in love with me. Finally, I decided that I should find a job first. After all, my parents asked me to return to China so that I could learn to be independent. Now that I live in David's house, I can't just stay at home. I must find a job. So I checked several recruitment apps overnight and saw a job posting that was very attractive. No education requirements, no experience requirements, just answer customer questions, and a monthly income of 50,000 is not a dream. I contacted the other party decisively and made an appointment for an interview the next day. The next day I got up early, got myself ready for today's interview. David had returned from his morning run and made breakfast for me. I devoured the delicious sandwich. Wow, Captain David sandwiches are delicious. I ate so much that my cheeks were bulging, but I didn't forget to flatter David. His face is a little red. "You're going out?" "Yeah, I found a job and I'm going to the interview today." "Okay, be careful on the road." Seeing that I was eating in a hurry, he poured me another glass of milk and handed it to me. I took a big sip from his hand, then looked up and gave him a satisfied smile. His face turned red again and he put down the cup. The police station has a case to close today, so I might be back late. You don't have to wait for me for dinner. Okay, you should be safe too. I will miss you at home. I watched him walk out of the door in a hurry, and curled my lips. Men are really hypocritical. Then I dressed neatly and went out for the interview. According to the location on my phone, I arrived at the foot of an old residential building and called the person who contacted me. Soon, a greasy man with a heavy accent came out of the box and took me into a residential building. As soon as I entered the door, I smelled a strong mixture of smoke and some unknown smell, which made me frown. Today is the first day. You should first have a brief understanding of the company's business. Xiao Wang will guide you from now on. I looked in the direction of his finger and saw a thin young man with a sallow complexion. I walked over and sat down at the workstation next to me, and Xiao Wang handed me a mobile phone. To put it simply, we are just ordinary small salesmen. We just need to get customers to buy our products through chatting. There are lines of dialogue in this document. Just follow them. The required materials, photos, and videos are all in the photo album on your phone. After giving him the instructions, he went back to his own business, so I picked up the words and started studying them on my own. Selling tea? While I was still digesting the densely packed words in it, the phone's message ringtone rang. I picked it up and saw that the profile picture was a selfie of a young man, sending a message asking who I was. I quickly picked up the script and replied, "Sorry, brother, I added the wrong person." "Oh, then delete it." I was a little overwhelmed, and quickly turned to my own words and replied, "Since we are so destined to be together, let's be friends." The other side replied, "Okay." I breathed a sigh of relief, so I continued to chat according to the script. "What does your brother do for a living?" "As for me, I raise geese." "Do you want to buy some?" "Me, I work in my father's company, doing administration." "Oh, that company is big, right? How about ordering a few geese for employee meals? I'll give you a discount." I ignored him and continued with the rhetoric. "No, I don't really like this job. I like photography, but my dad said I was not doing my job properly. We had a fight and now I don't even feel like eating." "Then buy one of our geese. Our geese are delicious. I'll give you a discount." I know they want my best, but they don't know what I want. "Oh, then you want a goose? I'll give you a discount." I grew up with my grandparents and rarely talked to my parents. "I'll teach you how to communicate with your parents. If you buy them a goose to nourish their bodies, I'll give you a discount." I want to go back to my grandparents' house to help. They work hard to make tea. "Brother, do you like drinking tea?" "My brother likes to eat goose." "If you are going back to your grandparents' house, why don't you bring them a goose? I'll give you a discount." I'm a little at a loss at this moment. Why doesn't this person play by the rules? Just as I was about to ask Xiao Wang next door what to do in this situation, there was a bang at the door, and then a group of police officers rushed in, everyone squat. It was still the same interrogation room. I was inside and David was sitting opposite me. In front of me was the water that David had poured for me. "Tell me about it." "David, I really want to find a crack in the ground and drill into it immediately, so that I can live on another planet. It's so embarrassing. Since I had just returned to China, I had no idea about the tea girl scam. It was not until I was taken to the police station and received an hour-long ideological education from the police sister that I realized that this was actually an online scam. David looked at my frowning face with a half-smile on the other side and asked, "Do you know you are wrong?" Yeah, I'm deeply aware of my problem and will never believe in false information on the internet. I will definitely change my ways and be a good person in the future. You're not going to arrest me and put me in jail, are you?" Pfft. David was amused by my righteous and confessional speech. "You won't have to go to jail. You were unaware of the situation and didn't cause any financial loss to others, so you don't have to go to jail." But my heart, which had just calmed down after hearing this, began to lift again. "You've been to police twice in just 2 days. Your legal awareness is too weak. You must improve your legal awareness." So I went through the legal education with my head down like a primary school student, and returned home with David. As soon as I got home, I locked myself in my room. This social deadness in just one afternoon will take a lifetime to heal. The next morning, I hadn't yet recovered from the events of the previous day, and David woke me up dazed and called me to have breakfast. "What are you going to do next?" I seemed to come back to my senses a little bit when I took a sip of the fragrant century egg and lean meat porridge, and replied, "Keep looking for a job." "So what kind of job do you want?" David put a peeled egg on my plate. I looked at the shiny egg and fell into deep thought. At this moment, my mind was as clear as the shiny egg, and I had no idea at all. I don't know what kind of job I want. "So what major did you study in college, or what are you good at?" Seeing the confusion on my face, David patiently guided me. I thought about it seriously, and finally a little light appeared in my eyes. "I can shoot." "Is there any job related to shooting?" "Gun is banned in the country, but there are still jobs related to shooting." "How good are you?" "I think it's okay. I don't know what my level is in China, after all, I haven't practiced for several years." "Then I'll take you to practice today and see how good you are." "Really? You're not going to work today?" "Take a break today." "Great." I followed David to the largest shooting sports hall in Jiang City. I happily jumped to the 10-meter air rifle venue like a bird. David followed and stood beside me. I started to play around. "How about we compete?" David seemed a little surprised, raised his eyebrows and asked, "Are you sure?" I nodded seriously. "How about the loser agreeing to one condition from the winner?" Seeing that I was serious, David also became interested. "Okay. Okay, I'll go first then." As I said that, I picked up the gun, the playful smile on my face instantly faded away. I began to aim without distraction, and then shot decisively. David didn't seem to react. When I put down the gun, he was still staring at me blankly with his eyes open. I stretched out my hand and waved it in front of him. "What's wrong? Are you so mesmerized by the beauty of this fairy?" "Ahem, it's okay. It's my turn now." David came to his senses, turned his head away awkwardly, picked up the gun, aimed, and shot, all in one go. The results are out, mine is 6.9 and David's is 6.7. "Hey, Captain David, you brought your girlfriend with you? No wonder you didn't perform so well this time, it turns out you had other intentions. But your girlfriend is also very skilled." The guy who reported the scores seemed to be very familiar with David. When he saw David lost, he teased him. When I heard the word girlfriend, my heart blossomed. I made a smug expression towards David. "Ha ha ha ha, you lost." He didn't seem to expect that he would lose, but he still followed through on his promise. "What do you want me to promise you?" I thought about it for a moment and finally decided, "I want you to be my boyfriend for a day." David blushed again when he heard this. Just as he was about to speak, a woman's voice came from behind him. "Isn't this David? Long time no see. How come you have time to practice today? Is this your girlfriend? She's so beautiful." David turned around and said, "Jenny." Then she turned to me and introduced me. "This is the coach of the provincial shooting team. You can just call her Jenny." I called out obediently, "Hello, Jenny." Okay, David, is this your girlfriend? She's so pretty." David was about to explain, but when he was glanced at by my sharp eyes, he closed his mouth again, uttered a through his nose, and said nothing more, but the tips of his ears turned red again. TSK, this guy is already in his 20s and still embarrassed, what a loser. "Come on girl, I saw you shot well just now, shoot a few more times and let me see." Jenny pushed David aside as she spoke. David pointed to the seats in the stands next to me, sat down, and looked at me from a distance. As he was looking at me, I felt a desire to avenge myself for having been cheated before, so I fired the next few shots more seriously. Okay, what a good candidate. Have you practiced this before?" "Yeah, sort of." Jenny and I went to get a bottle of water and sat down next to David. "David, your girlfriend looks so familiar to me. Have you ever brought her to see me before?" "No." "Where did I see you before?" "Ah. Now I remember, you were the champion of the U.S. national competition 2 years ago?" David looked at me in surprise when he heard that. I felt a little embarrassed and nodded with a smile. "Oh, David. You finally brought me a treasure. The national championship is about to start, and I'm in need of people. Can you let your girlfriend come here to be my coach for a few days to help me? I'm really in need of professional talents." Jenny was almost smiling like a daisy. David looked at me and I looked at him with the same bright eyes. Then I naturally got a temporary coaching job. The days passed quickly and in the blink of an eye a month had passed. I was busy with work this month, and David seemed to be even busier than me. He often came home in the middle of the night, and we met only a few times. It was the day of the finals and the kids all performed very well. Several of my teammates from the coaching staff decided to go out and celebrate together. I was the only one feeling depressed because I hadn't seen David for a few days. Jenny noticed my situation and came over to me and said, "What's wrong? Did you have a fight with David?" "No, he's just been very busy lately." Jenny sighed and comforted me. "It can't be helped. This is his job. You have to adapt slowly. Because he is often busy and the child is shy and doesn't like to take the initiative, you have to seize the opportunity to take the initiative when he is free." It was as if I had suddenly been enlightened, and my mind was filled with the phrase "seize the opportunity and take the initiative." Then I got home dazed, and when I opened the door, I bumped into David, who had just come home from get off work and was coming out of the bathroom. I don't know if it was because of the alcohol or Jenny's words, but I walked straight to David, propped one hand on the bathroom door, took out a pistol from my pocket and put it against David's forehead, and said viciously, "Captain David, your life is in my hands now. If you don't agree to stay with me, I will shoot." David was a little confused by my actions, and he glanced at the gun against his head and said, "Then shoot." I got furious when I heard that. "You would rather die than be with me?" Then he pulled the trigger. There was only a pop sound. A small flame appeared on the barrel of my gun. David sighed, feeling both amused and helpless, snatched the pistol-shaped lighter from my hand, then picked me up and put me back on my bed. I still refused to give in and grabbed the bath towel around David's waist. David stopped moving instantly, holding the two sides of the towel with his hands, looking at me with red cheeks. "Be good, let go, I'll make you some hangover soup." "I won't let go unless." "Unless? Come here, I'll tell you something in secret." David, with his bath towel pulled by his hand, had no choice but to obey me and move closer. "Closer. Come a little closer." David's ear was almost touching my mouth. He had completely lost his temper with me because I was drunk. "We can't get any closer." "Speak now." I gave a wicked grin, put my arms around David's neck, turned over and exerted force. David was caught off guard and was pressed under me. "Unless, you stay with me, he he he." After saying that, I lay comfortably on David's strong chest and fell asleep sweetly. It was not until noon the next day that I finally opened my eyes and slowly sat up. My head felt like it was about to explode. I reached for my cell phone on the bedside table, but instead touched a toy gun. I stared at the toy gun with my eyes wide open and my mind went blank for a few seconds. Why was there such a thing on my bedside table? I turned around and saw that besides a cell phone, there was also a cup of warm honey water on the bedside table. In an instant, a lot of memories of my drinking flooded into my mind. When I recalled the time when I pulled David's bath towel, I completely lost my composure and buried my head in the quilt like an ostrich. How embarrassing. After half an hour of self-psychological preparation, I finally plucked up the courage and walked out of my room with a fearless attitude. I had already figured out how to confess the sexual harassment to David. When I opened the door and looked around, it seemed that David was not at home. I breathed a sigh of relief and washed up quickly. A mess of thoughts were fighting in my head. I felt very irritated and decided to go out for a walk. As soon as I walked downstairs, my eyes were attracted by a mother and baby products store. I seemed to remember something and walked straight into the store. When David came back, I was in the living room exploring the uses of a bunch of maternal and child products. David was a little confused and looked at me blankly. "Are there any children coming to our house?" "No." I was still a little afraid to look at David, so I just lowered my head and responded. "Then why did you buy these things?" "I'll use it myself." "Why are you using these for pregnant women and children?" I'm pregnant, shouldn't I prepare in advance?" David looked shocked when he heard this. He didn't react for a moment and just stared at me blankly. I looked at his expression and couldn't help but feel sad and angry. "I'm pregnant with your child, why do you have that expression? Don't you want to take responsibility?" The shock on David's face turned into confusion. "When did you become pregnant with my child?" I said angrily, "Yesterday. We all slept together, whose baby was it if it wasn't yours?" "Ha ha ha." I stared at David and laughed until tears came out. Could it be that he was so happy that he went crazy? Is it that funny? Seeing that I was serious, David stopped laughing and looked at me with an expression that was hard to describe. "You are not pregnant. You can't get pregnant just by sleeping together." I was a little confused, but that's what my parents told me since I was a kid, and that's what they played in the TV series. It's true that two people can get pregnant by sleeping together, but it's not just about sleeping. You'll know this after you get married. Anyway, you're not pregnant now, so don't study these things. Oh. Since we have slept together, does that mean? Before I could finish my words, David's phone rang. He picked up the phone, answered it twice, then hurriedly changed his clothes, said something to me, and went out. So, we're together. The last 4 words were drowned out by the sound of David closing the door. I looked at the closed door and the maternal and child supplies on the floor and sighed. Half a month has passed, and David seldom came home during this period. I was bored at home and wanted to go out for a walk. I heard that the Yu Lao temple in the next city was very effective, so I decided to go there and pray for a marriage between David and me. David was really too busy, and I had no chance to pursue him, so this could be considered a roundabout way to save the situation. When we arrived at the Yu Lao temple, although it was not a holiday, there was a constant stream of devout believers coming and going. The century-old peach tree in the center of the temple is in full bloom, and it seems that a sweet love atmosphere is everywhere. The tree is decorated with red ribbons for making wishes, which flutter in the wind and are so attractive that one can't take their eyes away. I thought that since there were so many incense sticks here, it must be very effective, so I went in, worshipped seriously according to the rules, and also drew a fortune stick. The aunt who interpreted the fortune told me that this was a very good fortune. From your fortune, it seems that you two are destined to be together. The person you like is in love with you, and you will definitely be able to achieve a happy ending. I was so delighted to hear that I immediately gave that person a big red envelope. The auntie smiled so hard that her teeth were showing. She pulled me aside and praised me for my sincerity. She then gave me a pair of safety locks. Bringing it with your loved one will not only ensure safety, but also ensure that your relationship will last forever. I was even happier. I took the pair of safety locks, bowed happily again, and then walked out. As soon as I entered the yard, my attention was attracted by 2 people under the peach tree. Isn't that David? Why is he here? Under the peach tree, David was talking and laughing with a woman. I thought I had recognized the wrong person and walked closer. It is indeed David. How come he is here? Who is the woman next to him? My mind was full of questions as I followed them from a distance. I watched him holding the woman's hand and walking into the hall. They did not come out until more than 10 minutes later. The woman also had a lot in her hand and was saying something to David with a smile. David smiled and naturally took the cup of water handed to him by the woman, helped her unscrew it, and handed it back. The woman took the cup and drank it, then handed it to David, motioning for David to take a sip as well. I watched their actions with my own eyes, and felt as if millions of ants were crawling around in my heart. They were just like every other couple here, and I seemed to be the only one who didn't fit in here. At this time, David, who took the woman's water cup, suddenly looked towards me. I turned around hurriedly. I didn't know what I was afraid of. I just didn't want David to see me. It might make me look like a clown. I walked out of Yu Lao temple in a daze, walking aimlessly with the crowd, as if I suddenly didn't know what I should do or where I should go. I raised my hand and saw that the pair of peace locks that I cherished were still tied on my wrist, which I felt a little ironic. I took them off and tied them to a dead tree in the corner. Thinking back on what happened today, a man came to Yu Lao temple to pray for marriage, but met his sweetheart in the temple who came with another woman to pray for marriage. There is probably no other person in the world who is more miserable than me, right? The more I thought about it, the sadder I felt, and the more wronged I felt. I squatted down under a dead tree, hugged my knees, buried my head in my arms, and cried for a long time. What? It's all lies. I don't know how I came back, I just felt like I had lost my soul. When I opened the door of David's house, the living room was still piled with the maternal and child supplies I bought, and he still hadn't come back. Maybe it's inconvenient for him that I live here? That's why he hasn't come back for so long. I was packing up the messy maternal and child supplies like a zombie, but tears were falling uncontrollably. I stayed at home alone for almost a week, as if the real owner of the house had forgotten it. I have been thinking a lot these days, about every little thing between David and me. It seemed like he never said he liked me from the beginning to the end, it was always my wishful thinking. Maybe he really didn't like me, but because of family reasons, he was forced to take me in. But he also cared about my face and didn't want to tell me in person, so he used this method to slowly distance himself from me and let me understand. It just happened that I knew it in advance. I packed my things. In the short time I've been here, I went from a small suitcase to 3 large suitcases. The cartoon pillows on the balcony hanging chair, the couple's house numbers pasted on the doors of my room and his, the pink tablecloth on the dining table, the newly bought pair of blue and pink CP cups on the cup holder. This house seems to be the same as when I came, and yet it seems that everything is different. I walked to the door, thought about it, and finally stopped and left a note for David. Dear Captain David, thank you very much for taking care of me during this period. Whether it was saving my life from the kidnappers, introducing me to a job, or making breakfast for me, I will remember all the big and small things. Although I like you very much, if we don't end up together, you will still be my hero. You are right. Child marriage is an old tradition after all. Whether two people want to be together still depends on their feelings for each other. I respect your choice and hope you can be happy. I've been bothering you for so long, I think I should leave now. Take care, don't worry. After leaving these few paragraphs, I took a taxi to the airport. I had already booked a flight to Sanya. I felt that I needed to change my environment and start my life anew. The plane took off 15 minutes later than the scheduled time. I took a last look out the window at this strange yet familiar city, with an indescribable feeling in my heart, and turned around to walk through the boarding gate. Linda. I was stunned for a moment, thinking I had heard it wrong. Linda. I turned around and saw a figure that I had been thinking about day and night. He ran so fast, so anxiously, and even a little embarrassed. When I got closer to him, I saw the heavy bruises under his eyes. He rushed up to me and hugged me, and I was a little overwhelmed. His eyes were red, and he just looked at me like that, and gently stroked my cheek with his fingertips. It was wet, and I didn't know when I started crying. Fool. David brought the last dish from the kitchen and sat down in front of me. Why are you leaving? What do those words mean? I saw it all at Lao Temple. He looked at me with a look of disappointment. Why didn't you wait for me to come back and ask me? Is this still necessary? I wanted to cry again. What did he mean by that? Did I have to come and hear him say that he had someone he liked and then hurt myself? Then don't you want to hear my explanation? You don't have to explain to me. He sighed helplessly. That's my colleague, his child is already 2 years old. My eyes suddenly widened, and I looked at David with an incredulous look, which said, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. There was silence on the other side at first, and then a burst of laughter came from the background. David took out his phone and opened a local news report to show me. Recently, the police in our city uncovered a major drug trafficking group and arrested several key members who were hiding in Lao Temple. So, you guys were actually acting that day? David nodded reluctantly. I didn't know what to say for a moment. I was a little angry, but I didn't know whether I was angry with myself or with David. David looked at the changing expressions on my face, took something out of his pocket and placed it in front of me. Look what this is. I looked up and saw that it was the pair of safety locks I had thrown away. The bow knot at the end of the rope was still the one I had tied at that time. He grabbed my wrist and put it on me, then waved his own wrist in front of me, where he also had a similar one tied. In a room covered with red characters. I curled myself up in the quilt, leaving only my head exposed. David came out of the bathroom, looked at my round, straight eyes, and chuckled. Why are you looking at me like that? Hubby, you're lying. He was a little confused when he heard that. What did I lie to you about? Didn't you tell me last time that after I got married, I would know how to have sex to get pregnant? But now that I'm married, I still don't know. Puff. David couldn't help laughing, so he got on the bed and turned off the lights. You'll know soon enough.